Good evening, my name's Edward King Thompson, and welcome to another video. In Irish folklore, the first legend which probably springs to your mind when thinking of an omen of death is the Banshee, the terrifying female witch spirit which is said to attach itself to certain families. The most significant aspect of the legend is the Banshee's scream, the sound of which is alleged to predict the death of someone in the family. Yet, there is another death omen in Irish mythology, an entity which doesn't simply predict death, but directly inflict it upon its helpless victims. The Dullahan. The Dullahan, better known in contemporary pop culture as the Headless Horseman, is a dark fairy which appears on horseback, or in some versions, driving a black coach pulled by horses. This frightening figure is often depicted with its hands full. In one is a whip made from a human spine, which the Dullahan uses to blind its victims, and in the other is the creature's decapitated head. This detached cranium is described as smelling of rotten cheese, with eyes that methodically scan the horizon, searching for its next victim. The mouth is frozen open in a wide, horrifying grin. Some stories related to the Dullahan even describe the horse it rides on as being headless too. It is said that leaving out gold or silver will deter the fairy and prevent it from killing its intended target. I find this aspect of the story to be reminiscent of some traditional vampire legends. While the creature I've just described is undoubtedly vivid and spine-chilling, there is a misleading element to it. Unlike most folklore attached to a specific region, many of the details regarding the Dullahan's appearance and behaviour can be traced to relatively recent sources. In fact, there is little evidence to suggest that the legend originated in the Irish oral tradition to begin with. According to research by Doris Sutherland, the earliest known reference to the Dullahan is an 1802 text on comparative linguistics by Charles Vallancey, where he connects the legend to an Arabian demon called the Dullahan. The peasants hear him in the night, dragging a heavy chain through the villages and along the roads. As Sutherland notes, there is no reference to the Dullahan being headless. The only similarity to modern depictions is the idea of victims hearing the phantom before they see it, taking it as a signal to quickly hide or escape. Without jumping to conclusions, there is a possibility that the word Dullahan was not originally associated with a headless figure on horseback, but that sometime in the 19th century, these attributions were manufactured, likely in literature. This brings us to the next mention of the spirit. Thomas Crofton Croker's book, Fairy Legends and Traditions of the South of Ireland, first published in 1825, includes a segment called The Dullahan, which includes 4 stories featuring headless horsemen, headless coach drivers, headless horses, and even a bodiless horse head. I'm not sure if that's the correct language to use, but I don't know how else to describe it. It's a floating horse head. This is the first time we see the term Dullahan associated with the features depicted in contemporary pop culture. A coach, but that coach has no head, and the horses are headless as it. Of the driver the same may be said, and the passengers inside who sit. Perhaps the most interesting part of this book is Croker's own commentary and extrapolations, which he includes alongside the stories in the 1828 publication. Commentating on a story called The Good Woman, Croker discusses the etymology of the words Dullahan. The word, translated from Irish to English, means dark, sullen person. Again, there is no mention of headlessness, of horses, or of headless horses. This seems to further reinforce the idea that the appearance and behaviour of this spirit is relatively recent. Dullahan likely just referred to a generic restless spirit or ghost. Attempts to link the Dullahan to pre-Christian religion have been made, but are unsurprisingly dubious. Several online sources state that the Headless Horseman is a manifestation of Crom Dubh, the Celtic god of fertility. King Tigermas, who lived from 1621 to 1544 BC, allegedly worshipped Crom Dubh and popularised the decapitation of people as human sacrifice to the god. Then, when Christian missionaries came to Ireland in the 6th century, they suppressed this religious practice. Supposedly, Crom Dubh was angry that he was denied his usual offerings, and so took matters into his own hands. Incarnating as a headless horseman, he stalked the island, claiming the lives he was owed. This version of the legend plays into many of the tropes of the folk horror genre, but is completely absent from historic sources, suggesting it is nothing more than an entertaining fabrication, and not a tale produced through oral storytelling. However, despite how recent this piece of folklore appears to have taken shape, there are nonetheless some alleged first-hand accounts of people witnessing the Dullahan. One of these is attributed to W.J. Fitzpatrick, a storyteller from County Down. I've seen the Dullahan myself, stopping on the brow of the hill between Bryansford and Moneyscalp late one evening, just as the sun was setting. It was completely headless, but it held up its own head in its hand, and I heard it call out a name. I put my hand across my ears in case the name was my own, so I couldn't hear what it said. When I looked again, it was gone. But shortly afterwards, there was a bad car accident on that very hill, and a young man was killed. It had been his name that the Dullahan was calling. When I first began researching the legend of the Dullahan in depth, I couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment after discovering that most evidence points towards the Headless Horseman being a relatively recent literary invention, no more than a few centuries old. It felt somehow inauthentic, as though I'd been deceived by the illusion of a truly ancient and mysterious entity from pagan Ireland. However, the Dullahan just slots so well into the folklore canon of the island that I don't really mind. It's still a link to a time before the motor car, when life and death were controlled by sinister supernatural forces beyond human comprehension, and omens of misfortune appeared in many aspects of everyday life. While not an authentic part of historic Irish folklore, the Dullahan is an iconic and imaginative representation of it, with just enough plausibility to leave you diving under the bed covers if you hear the clatter of hooves. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.